Everyone. Welcome to the Yahoo Strategy Show. I'm Nolan Kelly here, as always, for our final show of the 2019-20 season. Can you believe it's already over, Alex?
Man, I honestly can't believe it. It's been a good season, but I guess the 4 game slates are a little bit more exciting than 2 game or even 1 game. So I kind of understand. But it's we gotta say goodbye at some point.
Yeah, it's true. Do you is this the week we take down the baller?
I hope so, man, because I could use some extra funds in my Yahoo account. Um, I got the best ball payouts in my account, so I'm feeling pretty good about Yahoo right now. I'm ready to jump back in,
Nice. I cannot wait to play Yahoo Best Ball this year,
dude.
especially because it looks like they're the only site with a good best ball program going on here.
Well, oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I mean, I just love that format. Just not having to change my roster week to week. That's my favorite part.
Don't disagree with you there. I also am a huge best ball fan. I just like you I think are a lineup uploader. I like to just like sit back and crack a beer on a nice summer afternoon and do a few drafts. It's a good way to spend some time. So shout out to our sponsor Yahoo as well for sponsoring this show. If you have not been over to Yahoo this week, they have some awesome contests for this four gamer as well as 2 game slates. Two game slates on Saturday and Sunday. The NFL baller this week is 150K, 15K to first with a $15 entry fee. So still some great tournaments over there. Lower management fees. You can still upload CSVs as well for your contests, which is great. The action is a lot less sharp. It is the first place I play every week.
Yeah, man. I was just giving some advice to one of my buddies this morning, and I was saying, if you want to really see more consistent results, you really should be playing on Yahoo over other sites because, I mean, first of all, you can put it down pretty much the same amount of money if you're playing up to 150 entries in the low stakes. Like this baller here, you can enter 150 times. So that's 150 times 15. So that's like $2,200, right? So if you're playing less than that, you should. I mean, if you're watching this show, you probably don't need me to tell you twice, but
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, we just got some breaking news here. Will Fuller will be a true game time decision versus the Chiefs. Do you have a
uh,
reaction to that at all? I don't know what to do with Will Fuller. Every time he burns me more often than probably anyone this year, and I'm not going to be a huge fan of playing him. Though I think like at 1% ownership or something like that at the time, like it's not the worst play in the world in like a bring back scenario with the Texans and the Chiefs in a stack, right?
if you had the 1% ownership, but I the news has all been that he's going to play, so I
You think he's
imagine people
yeah.
will start him this week, and then maybe they'll swap out if he's not playing.
See, I'm curious. We'll have to see how this comes in because I think like because it's a Sunday game. It's a Sunday
Yeah, it
game, right?
is.
I'm getting these.
Yep.
Yeah, that like people will be less likely to swap. I think they will not put him in and be less likely to get to him. But we will see about that one. I'm sure we will have ownership projection updates as well before the slate tomorrow. So make sure to check back on that if you're an Osmo Plus member. If you're not familiar with the show, we basically just go. We're going to go over all 4 games, give out our favorite picks for this slate. And then we are going to build a couple lineups, and one of them is going to take down the baller this week. So it's gonna be fun. Um, so let's start out with the very first game on this slate. We have the San Francisco 49ers, 7 point favorites over the Minnesota Vikings at home, 44.5 point total. Give me your general thoughts on this one.
So I think that last week Minnesota played New Orleans, and New Orleans wasn't a great defense. San Francisco is a much better defense as far as guarding against the pass. So last week they kind of ran Dalvin Cook a zillion times. They had the
Hmm.
kind of same game plan as the Titans to some extent. I'm not sure if we'll be seeing that this week because it is like such a tough matchup. But yeah, it's hard to
No,
feel optimistic about the Vikings here. How do you feel about them?
I mean, yeah, it's a tough spot against the number one run defense in the NFL. Great pass defense. Probably looking at a negative game script as well, but and not inside a dome, so you don't get that kind of benefit for Dalvin Cook. But still, when crunching user projections, still getting a lot of Dalvin Cook this week. Probably partly due to the fact that there aren't really a lot of high end running backs on this slate, as well as not a lot of like kind of bell cow options. Aaron Jones, maybe Damian Williams, Derrick Henry. That's kind of it. Mark Ingram is possibly sidelined or at least hampered by a calf injury. So my question to you is like, with this higher projection and with probably lower ownership because people are scared off of the run defense and the game script, do you and just the sort of general less variance with running backs and with the ability to project them, are you going to be having some Cook shares in this on this slate?
Yeah, I think Cook is the safe play from the Vikings because he's pretty much game script proof. He catches passes, he runs the ball. He's going to be on the field pretty much regardless. So I think that $30 is a significant discount from the quality of player he is. So I think he makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah,
it might be harder to land on guys like Cousins or Thielen, Diggs, etc.
absolutely. Yeah, like the workload is there, and like you might not get that elite production from him in this matchup, but also like there's still there's still a chance that he's on the winning lineup, a good chance that he's on the winning lineup just because of the kind of lack of other options and his role, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a great chance that Cook's on the winning lineup. He's probably the best fantasy player other than Lamar Jackson on the slate. So I think I mean depending on how you feel about Derrick Henry.
Yeah, for sure. And like we're also getting that really weird discount on this. Like I'm pretty happy about it, but normally Dalvin Cook is priced up around in the high 30s, and he's down to $30 this week. So for me, that's like one of the cash cores, and I think one of the guys that I will be building around as well. You said you're not overly optimistic about this Vikings passing attack.
Yeah, so what I'm looking at here, I put a lot of stock into like how many yards per attempt do teams allow,
Hmm.
and San Francisco has been the second best defense as far as pass defense in the league this season. So I
Hmm.
think that is pretty significant. Although Kirk Cousins has been pretty efficient when he throws the ball, so
Yep.
I don't absolutely hate it, but it's hard to feel very optimistic.
That is fair. So if we are going with yards per attempt allowed, we're going to have a little conversation about the Kansas City Chiefs in a bit, maybe even the Packers. Some good yards per attempt allowed teams on this slate, including Kansas City, surprisingly fifth best in the NFL. What about the San Francisco side of things? So we have like let's talk a little bit about these running backs to start off with because I do not really know what to do with them. Mostert is getting some ownership. Let me just pull up the salaries here. I just lost this page for a second. So we have Mostert at $21, Tevin Coleman at $13, Matt Breida $11. Coleman and Breida seem to be pegged for about 5 to 7 carries, and then of course Mostert has taken over the lead role, but his price is probably buoyed a little bit by the fact that he scored touchdowns in 6 straight games, right?
Oh yeah, I mean Mostert is probably the only guy I'd really consider in fantasy this week, but
Yep.
he has been riding a pretty long hot streak, so there's some concern that I mean, unless San Francisco really dominates this game and runs the ball a zillion times, it might be a little bit harder for Mostert to get there.
Makes total sense. I guess like this is the thing, like with this smaller game, just generally on slates like this, with these just 4 games on the slate, are you more likely to kind of like really think about the narratives that play out? Because like for example, let's say you have a Baltimore stack or something with Jackson and Brown and Andrews, the bring back option of Derrick Henry seems kind of counterintuitive in this scenario because it's likely that if that stack goes off, then Derrick Henry's probably going to be they're probably going to be forced to pass the ball more. Do you think about things like that? Is that something that's viable or is that just noise?
Definitely. I mean, we're talking about the correlations and Derrick Henry. We saw it last game with the Titans kind of controlling the game. they just kept feeding him the rock, and he racked up a huge amount of points. So that was one situation where if you just take the average projection, he didn't look like a great play, but he had that upside where he could run the ball a zillion times. So I think that the way it doesn't transfer completely over to San Francisco because they don't have one workhorse back.
Yeah.
But if you're going to play Mostert, it might be a good idea to avoid some of the other Vikings or some of the Vikings.
Yeah. It's tough because like there's like I'm thinking playing out these scenarios in my head, right? And it's like so Baltimore and Kansas City both huge favorites, and the likelihood that Tennessee is going to have to Tennessee or Houston are going to get out to early leads is fairly small. And those are the scenarios in which I think they'll be more reliant on a Carlos Hyde or a Derrick Henry. Whereas like we saw last week with Tennessee, and they were only 4-point dogs against New England. It's a little bit more plausible scenario that they are able to at least stay in the game or be able to establish the run and then kind of use it to their advantage. So something to think about as you're building lineups today. What about this San Fran passing attack? Jimmy Garoppolo, $27, and of course we have Debo Samuel seems a little bit underpriced at $19. Sanders, who if Debo's underpriced, is probably a little overpriced, and of course George Kittle, who projects out really well for us, but is also in a tough matchup against Anthony Harris, who's one of the best safeties at covering tight ends in the league. And Minnesota is the number one DVOA in tight end coverage this year.
Yeah, I think San Francisco's fine to go to. There's nothing that really stands out to me that would suggest that it's a great spot. So let me pull my numbers here. San Francisco's offense has been good, but not great. Averaged 8.6 yards per attempt this year, but that's pretty solid. And then the Minnesota defense is a little bit above average on pass defense. So I think that from an overall perspective, they look pretty good. As far as the individual matchups, yeah, maybe Kittle has a little bit tougher than average matchup, but you only really have two. I guess there's a lot of tight ends on the slate that we can go to too, so that could be a reason to
Yeah,
maybe go to Kelsey or Andrews.
that's the thing, right? Like there's this is but a for a concentrated slate, there are quite a few tight end options here. We'll get into maybe the possibility of a double tight end stack a little later. I know that's one of your favorite moves, and I am on board this week. Any final thoughts on this game? Are you kind of coming in underweight, overweight? Like, doesn't seem like an overly appealing spot, but it could kind of, there are some spots here that could go under owned, right?
Yeah, I think Cook and Kittle are probably my core plays from this game. I know I'm not reinventing the wheel here or anything. Like those are the fantasy
Come here
guys.
for come for the info, stay for the hot takes.
I'm getting some Vikings defense surprisingly in my crunch. I don't know exactly why, but it might be hard to find a defense you love on this slate.
I mean, that's a really good, a really interesting take right there. They're moderately priced, not super cheap or anything, but at the same time, like Jimmy G's been known to throw some bonehead picks from time to time, and this Minnesota defense is not the worst defense in the world. So I kind of like that as like you pop in the Minnesota defense and some contrarian and some to add a little contrarian flavor to your lineups because I don't think they'll get much ownership.
Yeah,
Pardon me.
man. We'll have to come back to that later. That sounds like a good idea.
I like it. Tennessee, let's move it on to the next one here. Tennessee, 10-point dogs, 9.5-point dogs, depending on the site, to Baltimore, 47 over under. Baltimore with the second highest implied total on this slate. General thoughts on this one, Alex?
So for fantasy, Baltimore is a tough matchup, not because their defense is really that good. They're a little bit below average versus the run and above average versus the pass, but not a ton. But they just run so many plays per drive that it just means fewer plays or fewer drives total, and that means fewer plays for the Titans. So that is a big knock against the fantasy outlook of all these guys. But I think that last week we saw Derrick Henry just control the game. So I think playing for a more pass heavy game script could be a strategy that a lot of people don't really think of.
A pass heavy game script from the Raven side of things or from
From the Titans
Titans?
because they barely passed it all last week.
Hmm.
Um, but there are two factors. New England's pass defense is very good, and
Yeah.
also they're ahead. So I don't expect that to really carry a ton of weight into this week.
That's a really good point, and you're going to get some recency bias ownership discounts and Tannehill, AJ Brown, super cheap. So I think like that kind of stack right there is probably going to catch a lot of people off guard. Of course, you could also add in Corey Davis, who goose egged at like 20 to 30% ownership last week, which was a great fade in my opinion. I kind of have to thank Sal Vetri for that one. He was all over that fade. Um, so yeah, that's if you were, let's say you were to stack up the Tennessee side of things, who are you bringing it back with on the Baltimore side?
Well, I think that Lamar Jackson clearly an elite option every single week. The $40 on Yahoo does make him less appealing on Yahoo compared to other sites. But the guy I'm really looking at is Mark Andrews. He's
Yep.
someone that didn't play a ton of snaps, during the regular season. He was only on the field for about a little bit more than half the snaps,
Hmm.
but on a per play basis, he's been outstanding. So if you think maybe they push him a little bit harder in the playoffs, then he could be a very underpriced guy.
He's the Tyreek of tight ends.
That's right.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that call, and I think people will probably be looking to pay up to Kittle and to Kelsey on this slate, so you might get some reduced ownership on him as well. What about if we're stacking Lamar Jackson here, $40, super expensive? Are we pitting him with Marquise Brown and Andrews? I know we've struggled to kind of figure out our Lamar Jackson stacks a little bit this year, but the reality is on a shorter slate, you probably don't have to stack as much, and you can probably get away with one of these stacks. How will you approach your Lamar Jackson stacks this week? Will you just be having one of them, one receiver, or two?
I think that either one is fine because they are priced pretty well. Marquise Brown at $14 really stands out as way too low for the kind of player he is. Like that. That's usually the price we see. Like really sneaky, wide receiver 3 ad or something. But he's like the clear wide receiver 1. The same logic applies with Andrews, where he's kind of a rotational player during the regular season. And
Mm-hmm.
we don't know exactly what to expect during the playoffs, but it can only go up. It can't really go down.
Yeah, I think that like with Marquise Brown, it's probably a little bit of recency bias. He was hampered throughout the final, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 games of the season, had the questionable tag quite a bit. And, looks like he's a full go now. So that could probably affect things. So I'm kind of surprised that the ownership isn't as high on him as I would have thought, because this is one of the best bargains on the slate.
Yeah, I agree. I think well, maybe it's just like too easy to build a lineup today, or I mean this week. I'm not exactly sure, but it does seem like that price is a little bit low.
Yeah, we have some real bargains at wide receiver, and that's a great point. So you got Alan Lazard at $13, Marquise Brown 14, AJ Brown 18, DK Metcalf 19, Debo Samuel 19, and then like even Thielen, Lockett, Diggs, like these guys are all priced way down. So there's a range of wide receivers here that you can get some great bargains on, and just pay attention to ownership. Maybe you can get some leverage by taking one of these guys that probably projects out pretty equally at half the ownership of another one. So something to think about there. Any final thoughts on this one about how people should approach Tennessee Baltimore?
Um, I think that Derrick Henry is just way too expensive in my opinion. But do you think you'd have any Henry this week?
Well, fading Henry hasn't been going very well, but am I am not going to have much Henry. I think the defense, the game script, none of it favors Derrick Henry this week, and there's a real chance that I think he just flat out busts. I mean, there's a scenario where, of course, they get up early and they're able to feed him the rock, but I don't. I'm leaning towards the Baltimore side of this things, and that makes me lean away from Henry at that price point. So we are on the same page on that one. Before we get into the Sunday games here, let's talk a little bit about what we got going on at Awesemo.com. You want to fill us in on anything specific that you're excited about or that people should know about?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got one. I think this is the last day of our 2020 promo where you get 20 days of all access for $20. That's a pretty big discount. So if you're
Yep.
watching and you don't happen to be a member, this is your best deal you're gonna get until maybe the next holiday. So I think that is worth mentioning, and also Yahoo has been really upping their NBA contests, so you can use all the tools for NBA, but for NFL. The top stacks I just posted for the week. I mean, we got projections, ownership, pretty much any tool you need to really optimize your game.
Absolutely. So you are correct. This is the last day for the 20 days of Osmo Plus Platinum New Year's deal. We had January 1st to January 10th. You get $20, 20 days. It's that simple. Use promo code 2020. And we also have New Year. I think this ends today as well. New Year Platinum Yearly Pass, $200 off for your season long pass. So make sure to get in and check that out. We also have PGA starting up pretty quickly. I'm getting excited for the Phoenix, formerly Waste Management Open, I think. The final is on the day of the Super Bowl. It's one of the most fun golf tournaments of the entire year. You get to sweat your lineups. Maybe you got something live, and then you just flip on over to the Super Bowl. So make sure to check out our golf pass. We have $1 weekly golf passes on. And of course, head on over to Yahoo and play some NFL this weekend. All right, let's get on to these Saturday games before we build some lineups here. We have, starting things off in the morning, it is the Houston Texans at the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 9.5-point dogs. This is the highest over-under on the slate, 51. Kansas City has the highest team total at 30 points. What are your general thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean that's insane. 30 points. You gotta love Kansas City's prospects here. If you're just going off that number, and they got the elite fantasy options to boot. So I think that Hill, Kelsey, Mahomes, to a lesser extent Watkins, those are all good plays. But the guy that's standing out the most is Damian Williams at $16. I ran a crunch and I got 100% of him. Like
Whoa!
I know he's just like the volume is there. We have a good sense of it because in the last game of the regular season, Kansas City had the motivation to play,
Mm-hmm.
and he got more than half the work. So I think that he's probably your safest bet for a value running back.
And I think parable with Mahomes in stacks as well. 7 targets last game. That will probably be a bit of a unique way to build, or at least to throw in a bit of a wrench to your stacks. And then you could see a scenario with a 30-point total where not only do you not need the Damian Williams Mahomes correlation, it just might be that they get up early and then they're able to also just use Damian Williams. So you could kind of see all three of those guys go off, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not something I'd go out of my way to make happen, but especially in a playoff game, you got to think that even if they're all big, it'll still be Damian Williams out there running out the clock. So there's definitely potential for the game stack and the running back to go off.
I like it. These other wide receivers, I'm kind of like thinking a little bit about for Kansas City because it's going to be very chalky to stack Tyreek Hill with Travis Kelsey. Bring back options. I think Will Fuller goes very under owned, and I'm like pretty scared to play him. But the price point is right where you can just kind of pepper in a couple and still maybe get overweight on the field. Sammy Watkins or Mecole Hardman. Watkins coming up in our projections a little bit. Mecole Hardman, basically just a boomer bust play where maybe he can get behind the defense and get an 80-yard touchdown or something. I'm guessing Watkins is your favorite of these two.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one that gets more of the playing time, about 50% more than Hardman or Robinson. So I think he's a safe play. He just hasn't hit in a while. It's fantasy, so it happens. Do you have any reason why you would avoid Watkins?
Just like hate him. Sick of losing money on him.
Yeah.
Those are my main reasons. So he hasn't had over 65 yards once since week 2. Yeah, just really sick of rostering him. Maybe that's just personal bias. I mean, it definitely is personal bias, but like it's one of those things where it just takes once, right? And he's got a fairly safe floor, I think, and there's some upside there in this matchup. So I think he's probably a pretty great play at that price point. What about bring back options here? We got Kenny Stills for $10 coming in as one of the best values, I think, on the slate at wide receiver. And of course, the most obvious bring back would be DeAndre Hopkins, $31. Though this Kansas City pass or coverage, I can't even speak to coverage. Pass defense, was that the word I was looking for there? Pass
I
defense
think
has
I've heard that
been
one.
excellent this year, or at least in the second half of the season. Are you bringing anything back here? What's your favorite bring back option? And then let's get into some Houston stacks.
Yeah, I mean Hopkins certainly fits the bill of someone you'd want, but not a great value this week. So I think Fuller and Stills are a little bit better priced, and they make appealing options. And then I think Darren Fells is worth mentioning, where it's like you got all these super elite tight ends on the slate. If Jordan
Mhm.
Akins does not play this week, then Fells could be in for another big workload. So he would be someone. Uh, Although it looks like Akins is doing limited practices, so
Trending towards playing, it
yeah.
looks like, but we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if he got held out again. It's kind of 50-50 there. Those are some great options. Yeah, so you got like some fairly cheap ones. Fells actually looked pretty solid last week and got a ton of snaps. So what about the Houston stack on this as a kind of a contrarian move here, like stacking up Watkins or Watson, Hopkins, and then maybe throwing in one more Stills or Fells. Are you going to have much of that stack on this slate?
I think it is pretty hard to get to because like if you just compare it to Kansas City, I mean Kansas City's projected to score like on average win the game by 9.5. So I guess that would mean they're it's like gonna be 30 versus 20 on average. So I
Hmm.
think the problem is Mahomes and Watson are the same price, and Hill is cheaper than Hopkins. So
Yeah,
it's
it
just like,
just
yeah, they're too
it,
expensive.
it doesn't seem like a great play, and it feels like they're probably people are going to roster them because big names and it's this game kind of has some shootout potential. So I'm with you there, kind of on the fade side of this one. Any other final thoughts on this game before we move it on?
Oh, just Kansas City is kind of like the most popular team by far this week, so you should keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Seattle final game we're going to go through, and then we'll build some lineups. Seattle 4.5 point dogs, 46 over under in Green Bay. Give me your general thoughts on this one.
Well, definitely based on the spread, the most competitive game of the week, so maybe that bodes well for the game stack.
Yep.
And no guy is really that expensive, so I think this could be a game that goes overlooked a little bit because neither team has like a very high team total, but it could. The prices are right, so I kind of like it. How about you?
Yeah, it's like I think there's some good values. I think this game is probably going to go a little bit overlooked at places. The Seattle passing offense has become very concentrated. The Green Bay passing offense has become much more concentrated as the season goes on, and Alan Lazard has carved out a role as the wide receiver two in that offense. And then well, let's start with the running backs here. Aaron Jones, our own Ben Ross is a little bit high on him. I am not as high on him, and think it's I think we're probably more closely on the same page here. What are you doing with Aaron Jones this week?
I mean, he has had an interesting season where there have been some games where he's just like, if you didn't have him, you didn't cash. So I'm a little hesitant to recommend just not playing him, but that's probably what I'll do. Let's see. When I crunched, I got him as the third highest owned running back when I crunched. So I
Yep.
guess not too hard to get to. Let me 27. And it's a little bit high, and this fantasy points per game of 18. That is a little bit of an anomaly, I'd say. With Jamal Williams back, I wouldn't expect anywhere close to that. But what are the reasons you have for just being really low on him?
I just think that I mean I'm not. I shouldn't say I'm really low on him. I'm just like he's just not my. Maybe I don't even know if I have a hot take on this one. Just Jamal Williams being back, and then like just the price. I think what like built into the price is the 19 touchdowns, but and we know with touchdown variance that can change at any time. So that's a little bit difficult to get behind. But like there's not a lot of great running back options on the slate, right? So Mark Ingram limited with a calf injury, and if he's not a full go, then you're looking at like 4 or 5 bell cow backs left, right? So I prefer Cook, I prefer Damian Williams at that price point, and then it's probably like getting to Aaron Jones third or fourth, given his price point and the fact that he's like $10 cheaper. So I wouldn't say I'm fading him at this price, but like a few more plays a little bit more. But what about the Green Bay passing attack? Do you like a Lazard Rogers Devontae Adams stack?
Yeah, I think Lazard and Adams are the guys I'm looking at here. So what I'll go off is just the game logs. So Green Bay, they uh, they actually played to win in week 17, I believe. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little foggy here, but they had the bye to play for.
Yep.
Oh, the Lions. I remember now because David Blow actually came out swinging. But
Just haunting memories for you forever.
so when we look at the snap counts, Adams played about 90%, Lazard played about 75%, and then Geronimo Allison played 2/3. So that'd be the order of how I'd rank them because of that.
Yeah, makes total sense. What about the Seattle side of things? Again, another concentrated passing attack. DK Metcalf seems underpriced. I'm sure he'll be popular. Not getting to a ton of Russell Wilson in our stacks or in our crunches so far, but Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, underpriced. Obvious bring back options on the Green Bay side of things with Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. Do you like the Seattle stack?
Yeah, I think it's a fine stack for sure. That they should have to throw the ball a little bit more here, being the underdog on the road. And the prices of the receivers are just really, really low. I know, like Nina, my girlfriend, might talk me off of DK Metcalf here, but I think he could be a pretty good play.
Don't let her do it, man. Don't let her do it. You got to play him.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Tight ends, Jimmy Graham, Hollister. No.
Yeah, I mean, Hollister is decent. He played pretty much the usual amount with Luke Wilson back in the mix, so he'd be a budget option, I think. And then,
Finally, go ahead.
oh yeah, Homer, $14. He's the pivot from Damian Williams.
Oh God, I can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on Homer? It looks like he's a pretty good value for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's not a great spot because Marshawn Lynch probably gets half the work.
Mm-hmm.
Homer, it's a little bit more of a pass catching back, but we saw Lynch have a really good catch in the playoffs. So
Right.
I think there's some big red flags with Homer for sure, especially if Damian Williams is the same price.
Yeah, makes total sense. All right. Final thoughts on this one. You got anything we missed?
Um, let's see. I got my top stacks pulled up. It looks like Seattle 15% chance of being the top stack for 15% quarterback ownership.
Yep.
So I mean that it
That
sounds like it's not that exciting, but they actually are a lot cheaper than the other stacks in that range. So you're gonna get a higher projected lineup without that
yeah.
much ownership.
I like it. Yeah. Russ Wilson coming in as the third highest owned quarterback on this slate when you crunch using your projections behind the obvious two. Let's build some lineups.
All right, let's do it.
Cash.
Yeah, let's do a cash lineup.
All right, we're gonna go rapid fire here because I got everything ready to go.
Sweet. Let
Okay.
me join my 50-50 here. I'm kind of
Sure.
curious how it shook out last week because 46 out of 63, so didn't quite get it, but
Well, this is the week.
all right, let's do it.
All right, I got running backs. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Damian Williams, Dalvin Cook.
I like it. Yeah.
Let's come back to quarterback.
Okay.
Wide receivers.
Well, I think
Kenny Stills.
Kenny Stills, yeah, $10. I don't know how that even happened, but I guess he didn't do very good in the wild card game.
That's all right. He only does good. He only does well when you think he's gonna do when he's gonna do poorly. So I think he's gonna do poorly this week, and that means 2 touchdown game. So
Let's do it.
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Kate, let's move it on to tight end. We can come back for our final
All
wide receiver spot. Travis Kelce
Yeah.
feels like the best value.
Yeah.
Defense, Packers.
Man, this is a tough one because it's hard to love any of these defenses, I guess. Uh, yeah, I mean, in the absence of a good one, I guess we pick a cheap one.
We can come back to that if you want. Quarterback, Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes?
Let's see. I feel like Lamar Jackson probably. Like just looking at the season points per game, like there's 7 more points for Lamar Jackson, and it's hard to ignore.
Absolutely. Plus, we got 3 Chiefs already. I feel like you're almost becoming like a GPP lineup if you throw in
That's true.
Mahomes in that
Yeah,
scenario. So
for sure.
it gives you a little bit of variance there on the
All
other
right.
side. So if we threw in the Packers, we got $19 left for a wide receiver and a flex. Let's see. So Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown. Take your pick, man.
All right. Let's start with the flex here. I think it'll be a little
Sure.
bit easier. So Aaron Jones at 27 stands out. Maybe his option. Lockett, AJ Brown. This is actually a tough one.
Double tight end. Kittle is projected as our top valued position play on the slate.
All right, let's do it. And
What do you think? Or do you prefer to go running back in flex, or does it matter? The thing is, though, so if we go ahead,
I like this because we have enough money for Lazard. He's a good value play this week.
if we go, so we have, then we have to take the Texans defense though, because we only got $13. I think Lazard.
He's 13.
Lazard is 13. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Oh my god.
Although, wait, if we go up $1 more, we can get Marquis Brown.
Oh my god.
Let me
Then
see.
you have to take the Houston D though.
Yeah, I actually don't have Marquis Brown projected all that great, so I guess my instinct wasn't very on there just because Baltimore runs the ball so much.
All right, wrap it up.
All right, I'm putting it in here. All right, should we do the contrarian stack?
Contrarian. Let me take a look at ownership here. Right. QBs. We have, I would say, this one I think is pretty obvious. 2 choices: Deshaun Watson or Jimmy G, and I think it's probably Jimmy G at that price point, right?
Yeah, let's do it. And then
Debo, Kittle.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Oops.
Dalvin Cook, or Thielen Diggs.
That's a tough one. I mean, Cook is by far the best priced of those options, so I'm fine going with him.
All right, let's do it. Dalvin Cook. Damian Williams again.
Yeah, he's pretty hard to ignore.
So now pop in a defense, just like, I don't know, placeholder defense, and come back to it. Seattle Packers, Minnesota. Oh, not Minnesota. Tennessee. We like the Packers the most out of that?
Oh, probably the Packers, yeah, but I don't feel real strongly.
And then we can get some like cheap wide receivers here. So again, I don't know what you like the most here. DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Marquis Brown, Alan Lazard.
AJ Brown really stands out to me at 18. Everyone's thinking they're gonna run the ball a ton, but
yeah,
it seems like a GPP play.
Now we can do we could do Tyreek Hill, or we could do Aaron Jones, I think.
So yeah, Aaron Jones, running back, defense correlation, maybe.
Sure.
All right.
But then that leaves us with a weird spot for wide receiver. That's the only thing.
So maybe
I feel like I'd rather. I mean, I think I'd rather go Tyreek.
Okay.
And then at the flex, you can pop in. We've got Stephon Diggs. We could pay up for a better D as well and go take one of these value wide receivers like a DK Metcalf or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Based on our build, maybe we would take the Kansas City defense, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Got Damian Williams as well. correlated.
So then we got Metcalf.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk me off him?
No, I'm not going to talk you off him.
All right. Chalk
Submit
stack.
this bad boy. All right, I'm going to start looking at contrarian options here for our chalk stack. So chalk stack is going to be one of two options.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mahomes or Jackson, right?
Let's do a Mahomes build because I'm
like it.
curious to see how that rolls out and what we can do with it.
So I think Tyreek Hill is like the obvious option at this price. So maybe we go. Is Kelsey lower owned than Tyreek or not? Maybe I'm off in this.
No, Tyreek is 40% owned, and let's see here. Hang on, I got all of them.
I think they're both in the top 4 probably.
Kelsey 50, Tyreek 40.
Oof. Man, that's some rough ownership here.
Yes.
So who do you want to put in this one?
So I don't know. Like this is the chalk stack. So I mean, we could just like I'm curious to see what a build looks like with both of those guys in and how we can differentiate off of it. So let's pop in Kelsey and Hill.
Use check.
Use check. 3% ownership, man. Okay, so let's look for some kind of low owned pivot options here. I'm going to throw some names out at you, and you tell me if you like any of them. Just let me set my thing up here. Wide receiver, tight end. Okay, so under 10% owned, I think Deebo Samuel.
Okay.
One guy that I kind of like that you are probably not going to like as much, Duke Johnson.
Okay.
It actually makes a lot of sense, I think, in this build because, if Houston's down, he's probably going to be seeing more of a role in a pass catching back, right?
What is Watkins' ownership?
So triple stack?
Well, no, I was thinking maybe we take one of these other guys out.
Watkins 14%.
14.
All right, not
so,
great.
I like the Duke Johnson play here. That's interesting. Like run back.
Okay, sweet. I like it too.
If we leave Damian Williams off this one, I think that makes us a little bit less chalky too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's do that as well. Okay, so that leaves us running back. Are we going Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones? I guess we're gonna have to find one pay down spot probably, or we could just pay up and pay down at wide receiver.
I think that we can pay down at wide receiver. There's plenty of options.
So you want to go Cook or Jones?
Cook.
Let's pop in a defense placeholder D Packers again or something else.
Yeah, I think that works for me. Although, do you feel like Aaron Rodgers is getting a little rusty? Maybe Seattle, dude.
Yeah, I think as well. Like people, I don't know. Let me take a look what the ownership is here for defense. So I'm guessing that the Seattle will go a little under owned.
Also, Tennessee versus Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, like if he struggles somehow, like that'd be interesting.
Definitely going to be contrarian.
Yeah.
So Seahawks, Packers 35%, Seahawks 13. So Vikings actually is probably, like you said off the top, Vikings is probably the best play on the slate. I think at 5% ownership.
All right, I like it. Let's do that.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Vikings. And then so we got $16. I think Marquis Brown is a no-brainer here. I think Alan Lazard is a no-brainer here. Is the Duke Johnson 3% enough to give us some differentiation on the field, or do we need another kind of low-owned play here?
Well, looking at this list, I think that Will Fuller, we were talking about how he would be sneaky.
Yeah.
So maybe we pop him in instead of Brown or Lazard.
Okay, let's take out Lazard.
Okay.
Pop in Fuller.
Oh, this is perfect. Now we have enough money for maybe Tyler Lockett.
I'm in. Or you could get rid of that Vikings D and pay up and get Mark Andrews if you want. But I like the Lockett call. There's some recency bias there, and people aren't going to be owning him as much. Click and submit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's split some money this week. That That is going to do it for us on Yahoo, on the Yahoo show for the season. The 1920 season is over. It's our last shot to take down the baller. We're going to do it this week. Thank you all for tuning in this year. We greatly appreciate it. If you could hit the like button on your way out, that helps us out a lot. Keeps these videos free. Go play over on Yahoo as well. It's a great spot to play. Any final message to the Yahoo faithful out there, Alex?
Yeah, just thanks for watching the show every week, and hopefully we'll split the money. Last chance. We got one more shot, so I'm excited to see how this turns out this week.
And if you're tuning in right now, of course, the On the Contrary is up in 15 minutes. Is that right, Alex?
That's right.
You, Spags, Steve Buzzard joining the crew to break down the slate as well. We have 2 hours of programming for you tomorrow. 2 hours before lock, it's going to be Lofty, Alex, and Ben Rasa breaking down the slate. And then 1 hour live before lock show, Sal, Vetri, and Chris Randone. So loads and loads of content for you. We also have a Sunday show live before lock, so make sure to check that out. Loads of content on the site as well, including Adam Pfeiffer's matchups column for this week. So make sure to come on over to osmo.com and check everything out. Thanks again for watching, everyone. We will see you in September.